Yeah, mushrooms certainly seem to be having a moment currently. Why? Yeah, and you've spoken to a few of these reasons, but if we zoom out, mushrooms as a kind of food group, why do you think they deserve a bigger place in our diets?
Oh, so many reasons. So mushrooms deserve a much bigger place in our diets. First and foremost, because it's nutrient density, right? So mushrooms have potassium and folate, which is like their characterizing nutrients in our guidelines for vegetables. But then they also have that ability to make vitamin D in 100% of every single person's requirement across ages in one serve, which is unheard of. So that's typically found only in animals. Then you've got a quarter of daily intake of selenium and copper, which, you mentioned you're taking a multivitamin with selenium. So it has not only what you'd expect vegetables to have, but it also has components that you find in grains, in nuts, in animal foods. So it's across the food groups. And when you look at how mushrooms are currently classified in our dietary guidelines in Australia, they're kind of the other group under other vegetables. So they're with like lettuce and tomato. So in the fact that they have such high nutrient density across foods, it warrants them to have more attention. So I really think they need to sit out as its own sub group within vegetables, at the very least, if not its own food group. And that they're so versatile. I mean, you can grate them, you can eat them raw, you can eat them cooked, you can blend them, to make spaghetti bolognese or burgers or tacos. You can have them added to a dal. You can turn it into a sauce, and they're extremely low in calories, and they meet every single dietary need, from vegan to animal-based to gluten-free to and that added culinary benefit as well of lowering salt needed in the dish, which is very important. So not only does it make it tasty with the umami, our fifth basic taste, but those natural glutamates means you need to add less salt. The other interesting bit about mushrooms, because we're not in the bioactive era yet, but one day we'll get there, is ergothioneine. So there's no frank deficiency for ergothioneine. It's a sulfur-containing amino acid that has potent antioxidant and immune modulating properties. We have receptors for ergothioneine, specific receptors in our body for them. So it means we need them. It's tightly regulated. Our body does not like to get rid of it. And in a lot of disease states, like type 2 diabetes and I think heart disease, ergothioneine levels are low. When you look at food sources of ergothioneine, you've got mushrooms, and then it blows everything else out of the water. And it's really low in other foods, but black beans have some as well and some other foods. So it's really the highest source of ergothioneine in our diet. Plus the betaglucans. A lot of medicinal mushrooms are very high in betaglucans as well, because betaglucans are, again, able to immunomodulate. Specifically in mushrooms that you eat, the edible mushroom varieties, it binds to bile acids and helps excrete bile acids. And then we need to make more, which we use cholesterol to make more. So it's very potent at lowering cholesterol, just like oats.
That's a great tip for anyone who has high LDL cholesterol or ApoB, another kind of practical strategy. What about ergosterol?
Yeah, so ergosterol, again, it's just like 7-hydroxycholesterol in our skin. It's a precursor to vitamin D. So that's when you put it in the sun. Your common mushroom that you get in the supermarket, your portobello, white button, Swiss brown, they're actually all the same species. So your Swiss brown and your portobello are the same mushroom, but portobello was harvested 2 days later. So that's the other bit from a sustainability perspective. Like mushrooms are very quick to grow. And they help close the loop in circular agriculture as well, because the spent substrate can be used and treated for growing more plants. So there's also that argument of why they need to, get more limelight in our diets. But ergosterol, again, it's predominantly a precursor to vitamin D. And of course, sterols, I'm sure it also has some sort of pathway as well in cholesterol lowering. It makes sense that it would, just like all plant sterols.
Right.
It's
competes for absorption and probably reduces the absorption of dietary cholesterol, I imagine.
Exactly. There's a few studies. They're not high we need more research on mushrooms as a cholesterol-lowering food, like clinical evidence. But there are quite a few studies showing that it does lower cholesterol in humans when they eat edible mushrooms.
What's the protocol for increasing the vitamin D content of mushrooms? You mentioned sun a few times. What does that look like? I know that you're doing that at home. Is that
Yes.
a 24-hour thing? Does it need direct sun? Can it be indirect?
So it needs direct sun because your window sills would block the UVB, which is the UV that you want that makes the vitamin D, just like our skin. So if you're sitting inside and getting sunlight, you're not making vitamin D. So the mushrooms are the same. You want to put them into direct sun. It's about 15 minutes, depending which latitude you live in. So the best way to check is that there is actually UV when you check the weather. If there's UV, they'd be making vitamin D. So in summer, it's in most places in the world would have about 15 minutes exposed to vitamin D will make more than 1,000 IUs, which is the equivalent of a vitamin D supplement. If it's kind of middle of winter and you're higher latitude, then you probably want to leave it a bit longer, maybe an hour. But you can actually see the mushrooms tanning. So they do go a little bit brown, and you can just pop them right back in the fridge. The vitamin D lasts for 8 days. So it's basically the shelf life of your mushrooms at home. What I do is I come home, if it's during the day that I do groceries, then I put them out and I pack all the groceries away and then grab them. So it's a barrier. You do have to put it out and remember to put it out, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. But there are also, I know in the US and in California specifically, there are growers that actually UV expose the mushrooms when they're harvested. So in Australia and also in the US, there are options that you can buy vitamin D mushrooms already. So
Is that something that's written on the label, or are you just looking for brown mushrooms? If you see brown mushrooms in the grocery store, does that mean they've already done some sun baking?
No, so you don't. They would still be nice and white with the UV pulses in the growers do. It's just they pulse, like they zap 3 times with the UV high dose, and it makes the vitamin D. It's only if you leave it home for a while it will go brown. They're literally tanning. Usually it would have to say on the label, right? Vitamin D mushrooms or something along, making a claim that it's got vitamin D.
And what about the brown Swiss mushrooms that you might see at the supermarket that are already brown? Have they already been exposed to the sun, or are they just
No.
they're just naturally brown and you'd still need to put them in the sun?
They're naturally brown. So they generally have more ergosterol in them. So the bigger, more mature mushrooms have more. If you want to produce even more, you increase the surface area exposed to sun. So you want to put the gills facing up because there's more surface area, they produce more. Or if you're cooking that day, you can slice them and put it sliced in the sun, and the sliced will produce even more vitamin D, like 65% more. So and remember, it's 15 minutes for most people, about 3 to 5 button mushrooms, so it's not a lot, will give you 1,000 IUs. Now, if you're making a mushroom-based meal or adding mushrooms to a meal, you probably use more than that. And vitamin D is fat-soluble, so you don't have to have it every day. You can have 2 or 3 mushroom meals a week, and that's probably enough to keep your vitamin D status up.
Are all of these mushrooms that you would see in the grocery store, there's different varieties, you said earlier they're really the same species. So am I right in assuming that the typical content of vitamin D, of betaglucans, of ergoinine, all of these different bioactive compounds and selenium you mentioned earlier, is relatively similar, or are there some kind of mushroom all-stars?
Yes, no, it's all very similar. So there might be like oyster mushroom, for example, which is a different variety. Because it has more of a stem, right? It has so you've got more beta glucan in the stem and more ergosterol on the cap. So I see a lot of people chopping the stem. I'm like, no, they're beta glucans. Don't waste them, and they're fully edible, right? So there's little nuances like that. But generally speaking, they all have kind of the key characterizing nutrients and bioactives in mushrooms.
And what about eating them raw, like in a salad, versus cooking them? Does that affect any of the nutrient bioavailability and absorption?
Yeah, so cooking, always you lose some nutrients. You lose a little bit of vitamin D when cooking any food that contains vitamin D, right? So people get too bogged down on that nitty-gritty. And I think it's just as long as you're eating it and you're getting a variety of nutrients from the different food sources, eat what you like. Like if you like grating your mushroom on a salad, go for it, right? But it will have a bit more vitamins, I guess, that are degraded through heat and cooking than you would like folate as well, for example. Your minerals don't really get affected by cooking, right? They can be created or destroyed generally. So you don't lose many minerals through the cooking process. But have it the way you enjoy and have it a variety. Don't only have it one way.
Are there any downsides or risks to consuming mushrooms daily?
No, not that I can think of. I guess if there's any food poisoning risk that you'd get with any other fresh produce, right? But in terms of the actual compounds in mushrooms and the nutrients, no. And that's the beauty of food, right? When you are getting your nutrients from food, it's very unlikely that you can exceed any nutrient targets.
I am absolutely excited to share an exclusive offer with the Proof community. This is a limited time offer just for my audience, and no doctor referral is needed. Function Health is a comprehensive at-home blood testing service that gives you access to over 100 biomarkers, covering everything from heart, liver, kidney, and metabolic health to hormone levels, inflammation, and nutrient status. That, my friends, is 5 times more testing than the average physical. I chose Function for my own blood work and to be a sponsor of this show because they are the best in the world when it comes to helping you understand and own your health. It's true, the depth and quality of their testing is unrivaled. And as regular listeners of this show will know, you cannot optimize what you don't measure. Don't guess, test. Use Function to know exactly where your health is today, and then intervene with evidence-based medicine and lifestyle changes to feel your best and reduce your risk of chronic disease. With Function, you get access to very important markers like Lp(a), a genetically driven cardiovascular risk factor, ApoB, the most predictive marker of atherosclerosis, and LH and FSH, reproductive hormones typically missing from standard lab panels. It's not uncommon for these biomarkers and others to be elevated. For example, over 50% of Function members have an ApoB level, and over 20% have an Lp(a) level that is above the optimal range. You can even add on harder to access tests like cystatin C, a very sensitive marker of kidney function, as well as selenium and iodine, nutrients that are essential for thyroid and overall health, yet rarely tested. So what are you waiting for? Run over to functionhealth.com/Simon Hill today and be one of 1,000 listeners to score a $100 credit. That's functionhealth.com/Simon Hill.